Hello everybody, I hope you're well. I just wanted to touch on a really controversial topic, especially here in the UK, because obviously 2 weeks ago there was the introduction of pay-per-view games to the Premier League. So normally during this pandemic, of course, fans would have the opportunity to watch every game essentially. We had games on Sky Sports, BT Sports, Amazon, even BBC, and all these four platforms essentially covered all Premier League games that were on. Obviously before the pandemic, there was a selection of games that Sky Sports had, there was a selection of games that BT Sport had, and there was a small selection of games that Amazon Prime had, but there was plenty other games that weren't on TV. That's of course to encourage people to go to stadiums, but of course since the pandemic's come in, there's no way fans can come into stadiums in the UK at this moment in time, even though people are allowed in theatres, but that's a whole other topic for another time. Essentially though, fans can't go into stadiums, so a deal was made to show all these games on television. Even the BBC got some, as I said, Sky, BT, Amazon. However, 2 weeks ago, change of plan. All the games, obviously, that Sky Sports had, they can keep them. All the games that BT Sport signed up to, they can have them, and Amazon can have theirs. However, the other 170 games that were not supposed to be scheduled for television are now pay-per-view games. We've already had 9 of those 170 games scheduled for pay-per-view, and we're slowly beginning to get a verdict on how things are going. We're starting to get some numbers, we're starting to get some figures, we're starting to get some idea of what things will look like. But first of all, for people who really are not in the UK, are not aware of the situation, what is the big controversial thing? What is so bad about this? Obviously, because essentially the pay-per-view money would go to help those clubs during a time where they can't get any match day revenue. However, just think about this, pay-per-view at the moment in the UK, to watch one game, to watch one of these pay-per-view games, you have to pay £14.95, essentially 15 quid to watch one pay-per-view Premier League game. Now, the fans began really to boycott these pay-per-view games. A lot of fan bases around the UK started setting up these things on the internet where instead of you pay 15 quid for a pay-per-view game, you put the 15 quid to help a food bank or wherever, or a charity or something like that, because obviously the food banks issue is a big one, is a hot topic right now in the UK, especially for what Marcus Rashford is doing and everything like that, with food banks taking on the government, taking on the Tories, trying to get some money to find some food for families who are struggling. So a lot of fan bases have chosen to go that path. Boycott, don't pay the 15 quid to the Premier League, don't pay the 15 quid to watch the Premier League pay-per-view game, pay instead for food banks. And that, to be honest, the fans have done a fantastic job. It's raised over £300,000 from that boycott. You know, Mike Ashley himself, the owner of Newcastle, the infamous owner of Newcastle and sports director, has come out and he himself has said that 15 quid is too much. He said that maybe 5 quid would be a better option to go on, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. We will find out actually on the 5th of November. There should be a decision on whether there'll be any movement in price, and according to reports we should be looking at perhaps £9.95 will be the more likely price instead of the 15 quid, but it probably won't go down to £5 like Mike Ashley has suggested. So moving on, we've had these 9 pay-per-view games, the first 9 of 170 pay-per-view games. What's the verdict? Well, essentially the Premier League, we're looking at about 38,000 buys on average per game. What's the result? Well, it's 39,000 buys on average per pay-per-view. So that actually, in actual fact, the Premier League is 1,000 better off than their target, which, you know, on one hand would look good. And when you break those figures down into actual monetary figures, that's £583,000 per game, including 20% VAT, I must add. And that's a total of £5.24 million that the Premier League has managed to raise through these 9 pay-per-view games so far. But when you break down that figure a little bit, you start to find some worrying statistics. For example, none of the pay-per-view games got more than 90,000 buys. Only 2 did more than 70,000 buys. 3 games had less than 10,000 buys, and according to the Times, a report in the Times, 1 game got less than 1,000 buys. 1 game got a less than 1,000 buys. I personally think it might have been the Burnley West Brom game, which finished 0-0. But you know, who knows? Who knows? I personally think that could have been the game that did it. You know, less than 1,000 when you consider how many fans, you know, West Brom bring in on a normal match day, how many fans Burnley bring on a match day. Of course, these two are, they're not the big hitters in the Premier League, but still less than 1,000 really shows you that this pay-per-view model may not be, may not stick around with us for long, especially at £15. Maybe if it does drop down to £5, the numbers will change, but so far it's not looking good. And another thing to add, these figures don't take into consideration the last pay-per-view game, which was Brighton against West Brom. And I'm just wondering what the figures for that game were, because obviously West Brom fans, if you're a West Brom fan, alright, they're playing Burnley this time, the first time round, okay, I'll pay for the Burnley game £15, I'll see what's happening, 0-0 game. And if as a West Brom fan, are you going to pay another 15 quid to watch them play Brighton? I wonder how many West Brom fans decided to do that, to take that option on. And you know what, we're in a crazy situation at the moment, because obviously these games, pay-per-view games, are hosted by Sky Sports and BT Sports. And if you're a Sky Sports and BT Sports subscriber, you must be fuming, because obviously you pay a subscription for Sky, you pay a subscription for BT Sport, and then they turn around and say to you, you want to watch this pay-per-view game, so you got to pay another 15 quid on top of that just to watch one game. It's a really controversial, really sad topic, especially at a time of crisis like that, to be taking money out of people's pockets for, you know, sport, football especially. It's like a religion here in the UK, and for people to do something like that up there, to be honest, I wouldn't blame Sky and BT as much as you have to blame the Premier League for this shambles of a situation. As I said before, Sky and BT host these pay-per-views. They only get the money for the production that it costs to put them on, because obviously the Premier League want these pay-per-views to be of highest possible quality. Sky, BT Sports sort of quality. So they do pay these two broadcasters the production costs, which are around 80 to 100,000 pounds according to a few sources. EFL, the Championship League 1, League 2, they stream games as well, but they don't. These sort of streams are, you know, include only 4 cameras. These cost around £8,000 to produce per game, so completely different costs of production. Anyway, you know, Sky and BT get these production costs to put these games on, but there is no agreement on the dispersal of funds to clubs. There's not even agreement yet which club will get how much money. How will that be organised? There's nothing on that yet, and it was interesting to get Sky's perspective. There was a source in the Mirror from Sky who basically went on to say that Sky's not happy to be involved in this, in showing pay-per-view games. They said, we never thought it was a good idea. It's damaging the reputation of Sky, and the feeling is shared at BT Sport. I think that on that point of reputation, that's a key point. I'm not surprised. That is a reputation killer for Sky Sports. But as I say, people will have a Sky subscription, and then Sky will have to turn around and say, if you want to watch that game, it's Sky Box Office. You've got to pay extra, 15 quid as well, which is a kind of a spit into the face of subscribers. How can I subscribe? And then you ask me to pay more to watch that game. You know, there was an interesting article on the Sports Bible website, which was looking at how much it would cost if you wanted to watch every Premier League game. The total was £3,399, and it breaks down as follows. So in order to get a Sky Sports subscription, on average you're looking at £66 a month plus setup costs. BT, you're looking at £25 a month on average plus setup costs. Amazon, 80 quid annual fee. Then all the 170 pay-per-view games add up to £2,541.50. That's a total of £3,399 to watch every Premier League game. That is a scandalous figure, to be fair. When you compare it, when Optus Sport was involved in that article from Sports Bible, and they tried to compare these figures to Australia. In Australia, if you have Optus Sport, you will get all Premier League games, all Champions League, Europa League, Euro 2021, Women's Super League games for 139 Aussie dollars, 75 quid essentially for all these games, which is absolutely incredible. I remember living in Poland when we subscribed to Canal Plus, and they showed every single Premier League game. And a lot of Polish people now who live in the UK, if they want to watch the Premier League, they'll have on Polish TV. They'll have a lot more games than a British person will have. Because if they don't subscribe to Sky, for BT, to Amazon, you know, it's hard being a Premier League fan in your own, essentially your own country. You know, looking forward to how broadcasting rights are shared. Looking forward to who will have the next set of rights for the Premier League, because obviously the next cycle is coming up on 2022. We'll see who gets the games. We'll see whether Sky will shelve another billions of pounds for these games. We'll see how this situation has affected them. It'll be interesting. But looking forward, I do think, I saw an article from February of Richard Masters, the Premier League chief executive, talking about Premier League having its own platform showing games. And I actually don't think it's a bad idea for Premier League to have its own platform. Sure, you can still have some games on Sky, still have some games on BT, but for Premier League to have its own platform to show games, where you pay a subscription fee, and a monthly subscription fee, for example, and you get all your games. Ekstraklasa in Poland have done exactly the same thing. I subscribe to it, living in the UK. Obviously, Ekstraklasa have their broadcasting partners in Poland. They have their games. But if you're many Polish people living outside of the UK, when I watch the Ekstraklasa, you subscribe to their platform and you get all those games. You know, £8 a month, you get all the games. Premier League, of course, will probably charge way more than £8 a month. But still, I think even £15 a month, £12 a month is a reasonable price. You say £12, £15 a month, and you get all these games, all these Premier League games. But you know, look at La Liga TV. They've gone to a similar model, haven't they? Where they show all the games on their platform. Russian Premier League is shown now on YouTube, where you pay £5 and you get a full round of fixtures on YouTube with Russian commentary. You can pay two or three quid a month, £2 or £3 a round, and you'll get 2 English commentary games. So that's how everybody else is going. I think that Premier League will be looking to go in a similar direction. It'll be interesting to see if that change happens in 2022, whether they'll be ready to have their own platform by that time, or whether we'll have to wait longer to see that change. It'll be interesting. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.